Hello, welcome to the Hyper 63 Hello World workshop. Thank you for checking out Hyper. And in this workshop, we will be creating some API endpoints for our Mario Wiki application. The Mario Wiki application contains detailed information about the Mario universe, like games and characters. In this workshop, we're going to learn how to set up a Hyper developer instance and then use Hyper to create a character document as well as get a character document. Now, this workshop is set up where the kind of all the moving pieces are set up for you, so we can just drive straight into the Hyper code using a module called Hyper Connect. Um, to get the most out of this workshop, you need to know HTTP JSON APIs, JavaScript, Express or Opine, and Git and GitHub. We'll be using DENO in this workshop. So DENO is a server runtime for JavaScript that that its API is very much like the browser's API for JavaScript. Um, You may have used Node in the past, but DENO works very similar to Node, so you won't have to worry about that. Um, so to get started, we'll just need to do some setup. You need a GitHub account, so let's make sure that you have a GitHub account and go over to dashboard.hyper.io and then dashboard.hyper.io, log in with GitHub, and you'll want to um, use your GitHub username and password. Okay, you may, if this is your first time using Hyper, may have to walk through a few steps to authorize GitHub Hyper to access your GitHub account to verify that you are who you are, as well as enter in an email address so that we can send you updates and notifications about the Hyper service. Once you're in the screen, you want to add an application, and we'll just accept the unique, but you can enter in any names that you want there. And we're just going to use the data service today, so we'll just keep that checked and uncheck cache, and we'll hit create app. Okay, we'll notice that that app is created. We can click on it now and go into the app view page and see the keys. The connection string is the important one, and we'll use that later. I just want to go ahead and keep a tab open on this page. Now that we have that set up, we want to launch our environment. And in order to launch our environment, we'll be using a tool, Gitpod. So we can either click this button, open in Gitpod, or we can just go up here and create a new tab and type gitpod.io and then the pound sign and then our repo. So in this case, we'll do https colon slash slash github.com slash hyper 63 slash workshops. And then we'll hit enter. And okay, maybe I didn't do that correctly. Let's do gitpod.io. Ah, I'm already logged in, so let me log out. So gitpod.io pound and then https github.com hyper 63 slash workshops. Okay. And when that's set correctly, you should see login to Gitpod and click continue with GitHub. That should log us in and spin up that workspace. Now, it may take a little bit of time to spin up. And once it comes up, we're going to create a .env file. And in that .env file, we're going to take hyper, and then we're going to grab our connection string from our hyper dashboard, this guy here, and we're going to paste it into that .env file. So our workshop is up. Let's go ahead and increase the font just a little bit. And we're going to go into the data hello world directory. We're going to create a new file. We're going to call it .env. And in that new file, we're going to add hyper equals. And we're going to go to our dashboard and copy this connection string by clicking this copy icon here. And then we're going to go back to our Git pod and we're going to paste in that connection string here. So that's going to set up our environment file so that when we run our server, hyperconnect, the module will be able to see that connection string and connect to the data service. So now that that's set up, I'm going to right click on data hello world and open an integrated terminal for that directory. And that just makes things nice and easy. And then I'm going to type scripts and start. And that's going to start up our web server for our Mario Wiki API. It's running on port 3000. We can pop open a tab and we can see that it's running successfully. Now, what we want to do is implement two API endpoints. And if we open up the server JS file for data-hello world, we can see that we have these two endpoints already declared. So a post to API characters and then a get to API characters :ID, which that'll be as the params ID. And what this will let us do is run some API commands, and it'll the post will add the document into the data service, and then the get will pull the document out. So if we do curl -x post localhost 3000 API characters, and we're going to send content type application JSON, and then a document -d with an ID of character -1, a type of character, and the name of Mario. Okay. So this is the curl command we want to send, and we want it to actually add the data to our service. So if we run that now by pressing enter, we're going to get message not implemented. And we can open up our create character JS file of data hello world.api. And you can see that right now it's returning not implemented. So what we're going to do is import connect from hyperconnect, which we'll talk more about hyperconnect in the next workshop, but basically it's an SDK for our hyper service. And we're going to instantiate our hyper service by calling connect and passing in the hyper environment variable that we set up in our .env file. And that connection string is going to connect and give us a hyper instance. Now, in our handler, our HTTP handler, we're going to call await hyper.data.add, and then we're going to pass in the request.body that is coming through our API. And then finally, we're going to, instead of return this 501, we're just going to send the result back to the caller, see what happened. So now we run that same curl command, we get OK true, which means we successfully stored that JSON document into the database. Now to verify that, we want to do curl localhost 3000 / API characters / character -1. Now, right now, it's going to return non-implemented because we haven't written the code to retrieve that from the Hyper data service. So in order to do that, we're going to go to get character for data hello world API. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to import connect from Hyper connect. Let's spell that. And then we're going to create our Hyper instance by calling connect DENO.environment.get hyper. And then in our handler, we're going to get a character by doing await hyper.data.get, and we're going to use request.params.id, which is our ID parameter. And then we're going to just return that character to the caller. And we will keep the status as 200. Okay. So now that we've got that, if we run our curl command, we should see, bam, that we've got the character document that we added to our data service back out. So the two commands that we went through in this workshop is hyper.data.add that takes a JavaScript object and it will store that into the service, data service, and then hyper.data.get that takes the ID that we specified and returns the document if that ID exists. And that is our Hyper Hello World workshop. You can see how easy it is to get started, and hope you'll check out our next workshop where we'll dig into Hyper Connect. Thanks again, and see you on the next workshop.